But when I mixed Nail Tech, which was right before First Class, that was more of like on a hip hop thing. So I think for First Class, it was more of like, this is a pop record.
Yeah.
But I'm also with mixing, it's like, it's not always our vision fully 100% entirely. And distortion.
Yeah.
That sounds like Fire Underwater, actually.
I tried.
Well, you said you're stoned?
No, I'm going off the dome.
I was like, God damn, you beat me to it. But we should also just do some tracking
We're
shit.
rolling. We're not. Do you think that's like a mastering engineer thing? I feel like mastering engineer is always like this mad scientist.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're like the,
That's why it's
But
like
they
so
can
hard to
be
get
because essentially they're only dealing with one track, the 2-track pass.
Yeah.
You understand? Like he's dealing, like let's say he's just mastering a main. So like he can do as much as he wants with just left and right signal. Versus us, we might have a 200-track song that we just need to get to all fit in a box.
Yeah.
So we're not like, we're just trying to get it to work.
Yeah, and I guess like obviously because of their limitation and the fact that they want to improve on it, it forces them to actually be a little bit more technical as
That's
well.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, obviously mix engineers, you know, you say you're not technical, but to the vast, you know, population, like
I guess
when what we talk
yeah.
about, like people don't have a clue.
Yeah,
you know?
mate. Yeah,
We're like
yeah.
mad scientists.
That's true.
Yeah. That was
There's
that.
levels to it.
Yeah, there was a guy, I was trying to remember his name because I really wanted to shout him out actually. He's called, that's it, the guy, George T Music. Because before,
I did a video with him.
Yeah, I mean, it was before I met you, and he did a video where he just like off his own back broke down like your tracking process.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was the thing when we came through. I was like, "This is crazy. We need to
You
like
know what
show
we could
this."
do though is when I go to the UK, we can do
Yeah,
the
yeah.
mixing shit like we said, but we should also just do some tracking.
We're rolling. We're not.
We should do some tracking shit too.
Yeah,
I'll bring it out of retirement.
that would be dope.
Let's stop tracking.
Because do you know why? Because when we did this, you Industry Baby was either about to come out or had just come out.
Probably just come out.
So
Because I wouldn't have said anything prior to it coming out.
yeah,
So it must have just come out.
Yeah. And you were like, we didn't. You said it like off camera. You were like, I'm trying to just mix, man. I'm tracking. Nah.
Oh, because I was still tracking at the time.
Yeah.
I was still recording Chris even right after First Class dropped for Jack Harlow.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
still
really?
recording. Like, imagine you have a #1 record and it's 2 a.m. and you're just like recording at someone's house.
Yeah.
And you're like, but you have the #1 Billboard record as a mixer. It's like, but I just kept it. It was like, when I gamble, I gamble with a seatbelt on, safety first, right? So like, I don't even hit on 13s or 14s. I'm a very safe person. So when it came to like jumping ship to go from recording to mixing, I wasn't just gonna be like, oh, I have a hit record, I'm done, bye.
Yeah.
I felt like I needed to get so busy mixing first that then I could be like, okay, now I don't even have time to be trying to know if I have to go record or not today.
I remember you speaking about this actually at NAMM 2 years ago at a panel, and I asked you about the Jack Harlow record because I said about how upfront and clear the vocals were, and it felt like a conscious decision at the time because other records they weren't really doing that. It was like totally consumed by 808, and
Yes.
this felt like there was a clear separation and like it was on
Yeah,
top. And for me, that was like really like refreshing. Like felt like
interesting.
you know, clear hip hop.
Yes,
you know,
because normally stuff. Well, that's really my style because I come from like R&B. So R&B, I think, in my opinion, is a combination of like hip hop and pop. Because you need some low and you need some body, you need some warmth. But for the vocal, especially with CB, it's like a pop mix on his vocal. It's very clear and in your face. With the Jack thing, I would say it's a combination of that and Jack wanting this like super. He called it candy, like sort of reference to be like vocals like in your face, right? Just like crispy and in your face. That was sort of his guide, but it went well because that's sort of my MO too. But when I mixed Nail Tech, which was right before First Class, that was more of like on a hip hop thing. So I think for First Class, it was more of like, this is a pop record.
Well, it
right?
stood out because I listened to his music, and then when I heard that record, I was like, the mix on this is different to his other songs.
It's funny because I had mixed the entire album, and then they went with Leslie For
Right.
they took all my mixes to Leslie,
Mhm.
and they had only left me with First Class. But Nail Tech had come out already, so I essentially had Nail Tech and First Class.
Right.
Okay.
The rest of them got done by Leslie. So that could be where there's a difference between them. Also, given that they're also different type of songs, right? Like that's his poppest record he's probably ever had
Sure. Yeah.
in comparison to the
Well,
rest.
and then the sample and everything.
Yeah, the
leans
sample
into
is
it.
so like Fergie.
It's
You don't get
iconic.
more pop than that, more
Yeah,
iconic.
yeah,
In that
yeah.
time period, like that was it, right? Back in the day when will.i.am had everything on fire and Black Eyed Peas were doing their thing, like that was the hottest thing.
A bit of a technical question in terms of like trying to get a vocal that on top and to sit in that position with the clarity. You know, we could talk about that for the whole podcast, but having the sample there as well. What's sort of like your process in making sure that the sample is clear and is heard and is instantly recognizable,
Mhm.
as well as the vocal being on top?
That's
Because obviously they
interesting,
share a lot of the same frequency.
Yes. I think what we did with the sample is we actually widened it and just had it out of the center. Like it wasn't, I don't think it was like fully left, right, but it was just out of the center.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. The sample also wasn't like hitting like 10K and above. It was more of like more mid-range vibe.
Mm.
So then that contrast against Jack, where we had shaved his vocal and then added a lot of clarity, it was like the sample sat underneath the frequency spectrum of Jack.
Right.
You know,
Nice.
Jack still had some body in him, but the sample didn't have that 10K and above that Jack's vocal had.
Mm.
So that's what helped it cut through, and also positioning it so it's not in the center.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's the one big thing that people like. They're like, okay, this is living in the same frequency. Let me mess with this EQ and get out of the way. But sometimes just moving it out of the way, like physically moving
Yeah,
it.
like mid-side EQ, stuff
Mid-side
like
EQ,
that.
but
Yeah.
also like panning it.
Yeah.
Like today I was mixing a record for Chris, and like there was a saxophone that in the demo was like right down the middle, and in the demo was very loud, so it was like supposed to be this like important part. But in the demo, like as soon as it hit, like it covered his vocal. And so instead of like trying to EQ it and make it really dull so it wouldn't get in the way of Chris, I just panned it to the left. And so when I panned it to the left, it had its own space and you could still understand the lyric. Although, in my opinion, it still felt distracting that all of a sudden something came loud
Yeah,
on
it's
the
all
left.
out here.
Yeah.
But I'm also with mixing, it's like it's not always our vision fully 100% entirely.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you, because if you did, I mean, do you not get pushback from the producer if you take that and pan it?
No. So that's funny because the producer came to my house today. His name's Kiddo. He produced Under
Okay.
the Influence too. But he basically, I told him, I was like, that thing, I understand it was supposed to be loud. Like it wasn't supposed to be a sax that lived in the background. It was supposed to be
Okay.
a lead almost.
Yeah.
And so instead of turning it down and then having them say, can you turn up the sax, which is probably what would happen.
Yeah.
I was like, let me leave it loud, but move it out of the center so that you can
Yeah.
understand the lyric. And so the producer agreed that that was the best mode. Because I was like, I could have turned it down and the lyric would have still been legible. But then I think because the demo is so loud, that's the thing about demos, is the demo really guides the entire mix. No one will ever tell you that, but like you have to follow the demo to
Yeah.
a T. Like this song, Chris's vocals are more thinned out and they're really reverbed out. Now,
Mhm.
I could just be like, well, that's not how he normally sounds. So let me just put the body back in his vocal and let me put less reverb because
Yeah.
it's way too much. But in the recording process, they created this sound for this specific record. So I kind of
Right.
have to follow it. So what they give me, I just recreate it. So like they'll have a cut, let's say instead of at like 80, which I usually do his vocal, or like 100, they'll have the cut at like 200. So it's like really thin.
Right.
And so I'll take off what they do and I'll recreate that 200 cut and just build it myself, take out the harshness, audio suite all the S's. Like I'll go in and
Yeah.
like fix everything.
Have you ever had it, I suppose, maybe not with Chris because you'll know the team and you've got such a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
relationship, but like where you think you know what the artist wants and obviously you're taking this mindset where you're going to follow the demo to the T and then they're like, bro, we were hoping you were going to do your thing
Yeah,
on it.
exactly. That's happened before too. And I'm
Right.
like, and that's why the communication is so important and why I like to have a conversation either with the manager or the producer, whoever's in charge of like leading the record and leading the sound of the song. I'll have a conversation with them like, do you guys like the demo? And they'll be like,
Mhm.
yes, we love the demo. I'm like, is there anything you don't like about the demo? Maybe there's not enough low end or something like that. And they're like, yeah, maybe you could do this or that. So I always have a conversation because if I just get the record and go, okay, I'm going to follow this demo like usual, I actually had it recently where someone sent me something and they were like, we don't really like the demo.
Right.
So then I'm
right.
like, okay, well, if I don't have the demo
That's
to
wild.
follow, what guidance can
wild.
you give me that you do
Yeah.
want, right? Like the vocals, in this sound like they're really bright. Is it the brightness you don't like? So I kind of have to, especially with newer artists where they don't know the lingo,
Sure.
I'll be like, what is it you don't like right now? Is it, do your vocals sound too like crispy? Or
Mm.
do you like them more dull, like SZA? Like I kind of give them examples, right? So that, because it's almost like trying to ask someone that's new in reality. And to be honest,
And they're not giving you references, or
I don't like getting references
Sure.
because a song never sounds like another song, right?
No.
So if you give me
Yeah.
a reference, it's because of something in that reference you like. That doesn't mean that the whole record sounds like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
reference,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and it can
So
be bad. It
I've
can take
started
you in
to
a rabbit
ask.
hole.
I'm like, what is it in the reference you like? Is it how the vocal sits? Is it how much low end there is? Like, because it's not the entire thing. Because
Yeah.
the entire thing as a whole sounds nothing like your song.
Mm.
But if you tell me, oh, the vocals cut through and they're really clear. Okay, so now I can mix your vocals to sound like that, but I can't make the entire track feel like that. Because you're using maybe different production. Maybe this has an 808, this doesn't have an 808. There's a lot of differences that
the vocal
Yeah.
will sound different.
everything it's
Yeah.
a male versus a female vocal. Like
Mm.
there's so many differences. So like when I get references, I always ask like, what is it exactly you like about this reference? And I like to have as much information as possible because I'll do my thing and then people will be like, oh, I kind of thought you were going to do something else. And it's like, well, it helps to have some sort of guidance on what you want. Because I could do anything. I can make it sound like a Serbian mix and it sounds really bright and clear, or I can make it sound dull.
Well, I was going to say, but do you think that that's happening now because now people are going like, now you're on that level where, I don't know, they've looked up, you're starting to get that name.
They're hiring the
You know
best.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
so they're
Where
like,
they're
we
we
want it to
want
sound
a
like Chris.
Teezio mix,
Well, that's the
you
problem
know,
too.
or
A
like-
lot of small artists, they come to me like, I want to sound like Chris. And I'm like, I'll do what I do to his stuff, but you're never gonna sound
not
like
Chris
him.
Brown.
Right?
I
You're
mean,
your
not him.
vocals
Like
are just not
anyway.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
can
yeah.
make you bright and I can make you reverby, but like it's not gonna make you sound like him at all. And I think that there's a misconception with new artists where they say, I'm a huge fan of this person, I'll hire their mixer.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now I will sound 90% like the person.
You kind of got to break
And I
their
think it's more of
heart
like
bit,
you sound
yeah.
5% like the person because
Yeah.
there's like, okay, there's a lot of verb and there's some delays and it sounds lush and stuff like that. Like, okay, it's like 5% of the game. It's not, you're never gonna sound like that person.
Yeah.
How,
So
how do
that's a
you do it? Like you mentioned, like with new artists, you probably don't have the issue with like your established clients. But so when they're trying to explain what they want, obviously I get this quite a lot. It's like almost a language barrier because
Which is why you have to convert it all
Yeah.
to normal terms. I
Have
don't use
you
like
had-
EQ, compressed, none of that.
Yeah. So like, have you had to spend time like learning a language that can get across what you mean and what they'll understand?
I think developing it, not learning it. Like figuring out, like if I say I want it to be really clear, like very like, okay, a lot of top end, which is what we would say. Like it's gotta have a little more top end. Or I would be like, is it too shiny? Like I'm thinking of words that could be like not a metaphor, a synonym for top end, right?
Yeah.
So like bright is a good one that you can use. Like I develop words that are more like anyone could understand, but it kind of means and it'll guide me. Like if they say they want it to be brighter, I know that I need to go and do a specific thing with an EQ, which they wouldn't understand that process of it.
Yeah.
Right,
So it's developing a new words that can be relatable to someone who has no idea.
Yeah.
It's almost like someone's like, okay, I don't know what any of this is. Now tell it to me like as if I'm 5 or something.
Yeah.
It can be difficult sometimes though. Like I remember, I won't say the artist's name because I don't want to out him, but like he said, "Oh, can you make me sound like I'm on fire but underwater at the same time?" And I'm like,
But that's too crazy.
Dude.
I wouldn't know what I'm like trying to think what that even means because fire
well,
and then
I
touches water goes out.
distorted I distorted his vocal and then did like a low a high pass.
No, a low pass.
Yeah, no, a low pass. So just focusing on that and
Underwater.
then having
And distortion.
Yeah,
That sounds like fire underwater, actually.
I tried.
Amazing.
But
it
was that what he wanted?
It was close. In the end, it was just like I think the
was
guy
just a
was
little
just
bit of
probably on too many
compression.
drugs.
Yeah.
I think he was
Certainly.
just on drugs. But
Yeah, no.
He meant he
It's
wanted you to
difficult.
shift his vocals and set it on the bar. Yeah.
And you know what too that I notice when I'm dealing with this type of stuff is like you're trying to like guide the person. You're like, okay, is it like this? Is it like that? And in the end, I feel like they sometimes are just get so turned around that they don't even know if they're sure that what they're hearing is what they want. And that can be stressful because I don't ever want someone to be like, okay, I did this mix, but like I don't know, I wasn't entirely happy, and I didn't want to like bug him too much. Like, I don't want anyone to say that. I want people to leave and be like, I couldn't have had a better experience.
fully satisfied.
Yeah, I want you to be fully satisfied, because
Yeah.
if not, like, what's the point of getting one mix when, you know, the point is to do all of your stuff moving forward.
How do you, because it's understandable for those people not used to this process, they're going like snowblind with different versions of the mix, or they're forgetting what they wanted.
And people are telling them stuff too. Like, they go to someone, they're like, what do you think of this? And what do you think of
Yeah,
that?
their cousin and
Yeah,
their
and
auntie,
then my producer wants to talk to you now, and the producer gets on, and like the other day they were like, the reverb sounds like it's too compressed. So I'm thinking, like, I don't compress my reverb. So like, so then I hit him and I'm like, hey, I don't compress my reverbs, but I would love to get on the phone.
Yeah.
And apparently it was just that the reverb needed to be turned down a little bit, because it sounded like there was too much verb or something like that.
Right,
it happened in the mastering process when Ohad mastered it.
And it's all got
It ended up with just more
Flattened out.
reverb or whatever. But the way that they came at it was like, there's something wrong with the compression on the reverb. And I'm like, that kind of sounds made up to me. Like, the compression on the reverb, I've never even heard anyone
I don't
really say that, right?
I don't want to out anyone.
A bit of
I don't want to out anyone, but I
it's
actually
number
heard
two
that.
now. Yeah.
No.
But sometimes like I feel like a bit of information is worse than none.
No,
Yes,
and I
you know
feel,
what I
yes,
mean?
it is.
Like,
It's like you
it's-
shouldn't have even said anything. Just
tell
give me something else.
Yeah.
and as well, I feel like sometimes, especially from the producers, like they're talking to you, you know, and engineers, they kind of like want to sound like they know what they're talking
That's
about.
the problem, is instead of wanting to sound like, you know, like, because you're confusing me more by saying like there's too much compression on the reverb. I'm thinking like, I don't even compress reverb. So
So
that makes me think like, you really must not know what you're hearing
Yeah.
if you're coming at me with like that, right? Because I don't even compress the reverb. So that's not, you know,
But it
it's
can
weird.
be. I mean, it can be intimidating. I mean, I'm, you know, I will talk a lot of shit very loudly. But I with a friend of mine, they had a music project, and we got on a Zoom call with the producer, not even the mix engineer, you know. But they were guiding a lot of that process, and they would just sit quietly on the Zoom, and then afterwards I'd be like, "How?" And they're like, "I hate it."
Oh, so
And
he
you're
didn't wanna
like-
say anything.
Yeah, but the producer was like the nicest guy and was just trying to make it work.
But he
you know?
wasn't trying to like make it look like he knew what he was talking about. He was just being quiet and be like, I don't like what.
He felt like I think he felt like he didn't have the language.
Okay,
Mm.
but
You know
he
what
didn't
I
like the
mean?
mix, right?
Yeah,
He didn't like it,
but
but he
it
didn't
was
say anything.
we could have just. It was so early on. We could have left turned. You know what I mean? We
Right.
literally tracked it, and we were still working on it.
Right.
But I think it just it can be intimidating.
It can be
You know what I
intimidating.
mean?
I
Like-
think that, but this whole process, like for recording engineer, every position in the music business can be intimidated in the beginning. Like a recording engineer, like as a recording engineer for me coming up, like when I'd get in the room as a young engineer with a big artist or a new artist, I'd be shitting my pants. I'd be like, oh my God, this guy's gonna fucking yell at me. Is the mic up? Is the mic working? I tested the mic 5 times. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really nervous, you know? So I can understand that. But
Yeah.
what happens is over time, that goes away and you sort of fill into your person, the person that people see, and they're like, you damn near walk different. Like the way you carry yourself, you can tell that that person is confident.
Sure.
And so that happens over time. It happens through experience. It happens through getting validation from your peers and from artists and the people that we work with. And they're like, yo, you killed that mix, or you did, you know, great job recording me today. And like every time that someone tells you something like that or validates you in some sort of way, that gives you like one extra. You know, and over the course of 5 years, all of a sudden you're a different person.
Sure.
Yeah,
You know?
100%.
It
yeah,
takes time.
I feel like, you know, from when I first started mixing and even recording, like it is day and night. You know, I don't do a lot of tracking anymore, but if I sit down and track, I don't even have to think about what I'm doing.
You don't think at all. I
Yeah.
mean, I used to roll a joint and drink water. I used to literally have the water with the straw at Chris's studio, and I'd be like rolling a joint while he was doing melodies, which the melodies aren't like line by line. It's literally like just
Okay.
maybe like a verse and a hook, and then we start over and just get melodies. So I'd like roll a joint really quick and drink and talk on the talk back, and like you get to that level of confidence, because this is the biggest issue is like, if you don't have the confidence, great, right? Like you're working on it. But the problem is once an artist or a producer sniffs that you don't really know what you're fucking doing, that's where shit gets bad.
Yeah.
If you don't exude confidence to the client, they're going to be looking at you like, this motherfucker doesn't know what he's doing. What if he's not recording me right? You know, and automatically they're going to start getting on you about stuff just based on confidence. Maybe you didn't even fuck up yet. maybe it's just the confidence that they just kind of look like you're not.
Yeah,
really,
the energy's there.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
kind of feel that they're nervous, very nervous, and you're like, nothing's even happening yet. I'm not even in the booth yet, and you're already trembling.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like.
yeah.
So I feel like the confidence thing is really big. Like when I remember when I first started working for Chris, he walked in the room and I'm literally like sweating. My hands are sweaty.
When was that? So
This was in 2016.
So what? Okay, that's
So
yeah.
it was one session. I remember it was like he booked me for the first session. He didn't show up. I literally was there for the studio for like 4 or 5 hours, and then he just never came. And then the A&R left because the A&R had come because it was like the first time that I was going to be working with him. So the A&R just wanted to make sure like everything was smooth, and he also had to do like a feature or whatever. And so he didn't come the first day. So it was like I was nervous for like 4 or 5 hours, and then it's just like, okay, go home.
Did you feel deflated after that?
Yeah, you feel like you just went through the most stressful shit, like constant stress, and then it's like done, and you're just off the cliff, and you're just like your body is tired.
Yeah.
And so the next time he walks in, and he's like, "Yo, you the new guy?" And it's like, "Yep." Shake hands, and then it's like, and then my thing was, I was like, okay, I have to give myself a leg up right now. So I was like, I got the song ready. You ready to get in the booth? Like I just said it like that to him, and he's like, shit, you ready then? And then he got in. And
okay,
it was like
cool. Yeah.
initializing that before he could even see that I was nervous. I was like, I already got this shit up. Get in the booth.
Yeah.
Because they had told me what he was gonna do. So he already knew that. That helped, obviously. That like it wasn't like he came in and I'm like, what are we doing?
Having that prep.
There was a feature he had to do, and so that was prepped and ready in his template with everything he needed. And I had everything was working. So it was just like walk in, let's get to it. You know, even though I was scared, I just on the outside, I was like, I know that I can't. Once you like show that you're in, not really confident, then that gives them the ability to be like find something that you're doing wrong and be like, I don't really fuck with this guy.
Yeah, and there was something interesting in your tracking process where he was saying Chris doesn't know what's happening.
He has no idea because he can't really see the screen. I mean, like if you're sitting from over there, you can kind of squint and see, but you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And if you're a newer artist, you're not going to even know what you're looking at.
Sure. Yeah.
So he can't really see. So you have to, and that's for anyone you're recording, unless they're sitting next to you and like they know what's going on. Like Thug. Thug can sit next to Baines, and Baines doesn't need to be like describing what the next step is.
Yeah.
He can see it.
He could take over the keyboard and run
but
it.
Chris is blind in a room with headphones on, and his new booth in his other studio, you can't even see outside the booth. So it's like he's in there by himself. I have to guide him the whole part as if I'm guiding someone who's driving and they're blind, and I'm like telling them, okay, slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like he'll get to the end of something and he'll be like, all right, bring me back to the top. And I'm like, no, we haven't done the last line. So I could have just followed direction, like bring me to the top, and then you get there and the last line's missing. Or like he'll stack something once instead of twice, and then when I go to bring him back to stack again, he does something else, and I'm like, no, you have to stack that one you just did. Okay, boom, and he'll stack it.
When you were doing that, when you were doing the tracking, obviously we showed like you've shown that process and of like playlisting and like coming back to the start and things.
Yeah.
But are you making notes? Are you thinking about coming back, or is it just there's no time?
No, there's no notes because you can't take your hand in unless he's doing like the melody show I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Where there's nothing going on. He's just like doing melodies. You can't really take your hand off the keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
You got to be so quick.
Like as you're doing a quick key to like stop and record, the mouse has to be already in transit to the next place you'll need the mouse to be at. So it's constant.
Do you think that's sort of the confidence to sort of like talk back to him and say, no, we need to finish this?
Yes,
that's
part
what
of the
like
confidence too.
solidified that relationship.
Yeah, because if not, he's going to come out and be like, where's the last line? And be like, oh, you just didn't do it. And it's like, you didn't tell me that I didn't do it. You can't talk. Like
you
it's almost like
you were running the session.
Yeah, it's almost like you're not running. Who's running the fucking session? Like he needs you to do your part, or else.
Yeah, and there's a thing that's come up a few times. We spoke to Ricky St. Hilaire, who's Busta Rhymes' engineer.
Yeah, I used to engineer for Busta too, and I'm telling you right now, this story probably gonna be scary because Busta will get on you for recording.
Right, but he said, right, and he said, and actually we would talk about that because I think you were in New York, and
I was in New York working with him,
and
you
were in Quad, right?
I was in Quad, yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, Rick St. Hilaire out of Quad, if anyone doesn't know that. But he said that first time with Busta, because he's like, you got to remember, this guy has 50 yes men in the room.
Yep.
So he came in and hit the first verse, and it was fucking fire, and everyone's going crazy. And everyone's cheering, and like, yeah, sick. Everyone's dabbing everyone up. He goes in second verse. not quite hitting, but everyone's cheering, everyone's down, everyone up.
Yeah,
And then
still
You're saying
hard,
not
though.
quite hitting, meaning
Still
like
Buster.
the content of what he recorded,
It's
not
still-
the recording process.
Yeah, it's still Buster, but
Yeah.
it's Buster's level, and then there's
Yeah.
everyone else, right?
Right.
And then he was like, "What do you think?" And Ricky said, like,
That ain't
you know, I think you got another one in, you know, something like that.
Like do a different verse type of thing.
yeah, I think you got one, like maybe. you
Yeah,
got
or
one
like
more.
a better take, or like more energy, whatever
Right.
it was.
So basically, what you're trying to say, he's the only one in the room
He's
He
the
said it.
only
that
one.
said
Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah.
Tell
that
him.
opposed.
And he
yeah.
and
Yeah.
Buster left. And
Because of that.
well, yeah, dipped. But then the next day he came back, and obviously he had listened to the take and realized that Ricky was right. And
Yeah.
he came back and was like, "You're my engineer from now on."
and then
that's how
that
their
was it.
relationship
Because
started.
he drew like the biggest risk ever. Because he could have essentially just lost.
Yeah,
the
he
client.
played the game.
Yeah.
He put it on 13.
But he put it. Yeah, he literally
got
put it
beaten
all
up,
in.
let's face it.
No, but look, like that's dangerous. I don't. It's such a thing where it's like as the person telling him that you're in the right. Like he needs people like you. Everyone knows that, right?
Mm.
But does he know that? Will he realize? And it took him
that's interesting.
leaving the session, listening to it, and being like, "Damn, that motherfucker was right."
Yeah.
And then going back to him and being like, "You're my engineer," but he risked it because he could have left and been like, "Man, fuck that dude."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
of
Like
course.
it's a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
You know.
He played it well though. He
I
played
mean,
it
that's
well.
interesting. Something where you had this crazy. I mean, and the Baines had almost the same timeline with Thug, but that relationship you've had with Chris, that same timeline of working with the same artist, tracking,
Yeah.
eventually mixing, and and then having the whole album, and then doing everything. And I mean, how do you? I don't know. Like, what's the? Trying to turn a question out of that, but like, what's the like? What's the secret? I suppose to like building those relationships, building that trust, and just kind of like maintaining that and growing it. And
It's kind of a hard question. I think a lot of it is based on who you are and the decisions you make. Like I'm a certain way about stuff, and other people are a certain way, and maybe someone else with CB wouldn't have done so well because maybe they would have felt like, oh, I'm doing all this work and I'm only being paid to record, and like I'm having to like communicate stuff with the label and get the splits from the producers and rearrange all the producers' stems. Like someone else could have been like, oh, I'm not being paid enough for this shit, and then gone and made some drama about it, and then they get fired or something like that. My way of thinking was always like, I'm being paid well, and no one else is gonna do this shit. And if we want to see this get across the line, we gotta do it sometimes. Like I have to write out the lyrics for the label.
But passion
Right.
comes into that as
Right.
well, though,
It's
because you
passion,
clearly
yeah.
care, like, and you want to
And
be
to
there.
be honest, like if I mix something and I don't post about it, people may not realize that I mixed it. But if a Chris song comes out, they're gonna know that I mixed it. So
sure,
it's kind of
okay.
like I have to make sure that that shit is right.
yeah.
Versus something else that I'm like, I didn't end up happy with the mix, given all the notes they may have done. I can just not post the song, and no one's probably gonna know that I mixed on it.
That's
But
interesting.
But when Chris drops, they know that I'm a part of it. So that's where I have
so
to
it better
make
not
sure.
be a 2-track.
Yeah, it better not be some bullshit. So I have to like,
yeah.
it's how I put more care into it, knowing that it needs it. They need more care, meaning like the 360 around the whole thing. Like even now, I don't record them, and the label still does all the communication through me.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was a really interesting thing, and I think like these are things that people coming up wouldn't realize. They think
no.
like, okay, your mix has got to be the like the loudest or whatever,
Yeah.
or and that was one something you've always talked about is like it's relationships, communication with the label,
Yeah.
communication with the A&R, like the label head, because you go past the A&R to the label head,
Right.
and they just trust you.
Yeah, that's
You
the main
know,
thing
it's
is
like-
relationships.
yeah.
To be honest, you don't even need to be that good of a mixer. People just need to like you. Like I
And
tell
trust-
people all
and
the time,
trust
like
you.
at this level, like me, Baines, John Castelli, like it's subjective on who, like if any of us are even good at anything. Like we're just all like, we're just like.
You guys are good mixers.
But what I'm trying to say is like the difference between someone going to John or me or David Young, Kim, or something like that is just based off a relationship.
Yeah.
My boy knows David. Let me hit him. Oh, my boy is actually really good friends with John Castelli. Let's go to John.
Yeah.
Or me. It just like it's at this level. It's almost like you don't need to be the best mixer.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just need to be the
Right, yeah,
most connected that people are gonna trust and want to work with. Like it becomes that game.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it's like my mix is louder, my mix is brighter, my mix is this. But at this level, like I've heard mixes from big mixers, and I'm like, what happened? Like
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
it's like, and not every song is gonna sound like an amazing mix.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of variables that come into how a mix sounds. Like you'll hear like a Tate McRae mix and be like, wow, it's perfect, right? And then some smaller artists who like has not as great production, you know, the sound selection isn't as great, sounds like that type of music, you mix it and it doesn't sound like that record you just heard,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Serban mix for Tate McRae.
Yeah.
Even though you can kind of get close to a Serban mix, the artist and the sound selection and the producer and them not being as well seasoned and especially the production, because producers at that level like Johnny Goldstein and them, like they see a record through and throughout and they make great, every song that I've mixed for Johnny has been an amazing record.
Right.
Like they really know how to select sounds, pick certain things that work with the person's voice. And so without those things, like it'll just never be great. So I always think like not every mix is going to be what I would think is an
Yeah.
amazing mix. Even mixes that I do, I'm like, there are things that could be better, but it's not actually on me. It's like I would have used a different kick that had a little more punch.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that snare is kind of annoying. Like,
What do you think about that? I mean, that's kind of a hot topic.
well,
It's
there are
like-
some mixers that will just change the sounds themselves.
Yeah, I
That's what I was
do
gonna
it all
say,
the
yeah.
time.
But it can come off as very, very disrespectful and very arrogant if you don't even tell anyone. Like my thing is if I'm going to make some sort of change, I'm going to have a full discussion like, hey, and I'm going to almost like make them make the decision for me
Yeah.
by saying, hey, I have an idea. I want you to hear it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, we did it. No one else has to hear it. I just want your input.
yeah.
So I'm making them feel like I'm not just doing shit on my own and being like, here's the mix. Like
Yeah.
I'm coming at them with humility.
yeah,
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
saying, hey, I have an idea that could work. I just want you to hear it. If not, we'll switch it back to
That's a
what it
good
was.
point. Maybe I need to work that into my flow.
Yeah, and you just
But-
kind of say it in a way where they don't feel like you're taking these choices upon yourself and not even asking them. It's like if someone like I take your phone to use it and I don't even say, hey, can I borrow your phone?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I should probably ask, even though you wouldn't have a problem with me using your phone.
Yes.
I wouldn't just take it out of your hand and use it.
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
like that, I would say, the comparison.
I've never been like baited for doing it. And it's only most of the time I ever do it is a kick. And it might be like the kick doesn't work with the 808 or whatever. and
Yes,
I
that
think we
happens
can
all
move
the
it.
time where the kick doesn't really work with the 808. And that's part of what I'm saying when like you think of like that mix that's like perfect and then like the kick will phase out weird on certain notes. And in the demo, it's like that. So the second you change that, it kind of, the record feels different. Now it's punching harder in every place. And maybe that's not what they wanted. It's like they got so used to the phasing out on certain notes that you wouldn't
Yeah.
feel it. Like these are all things that people can get married
Yeah,
to.
and they're trying
Yeah,
to they're trying to do something. Maybe you're
It's
thinking
very,
like
I'm thinking
yeah.
technically like, oh, I don't want these things to phase out, but they're like, no, that was the feeling because these two notes hit hard and then these two hit a little bit softer because it's phasing and then these two go back to hitting hard.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just part of what they wanted.
It's like what we
Yeah.
spoke about with Ohad, your mastering engineer,
Yeah.
earlier about like actually, getting out of the way of the song and
Yes.
and removing your ego from it. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't even add like delays and all this. I don't do any of that stuff to people's songs unless it's like anything that people give me control of where they're like, I want you to do your thing. Then I'll do some stuff. Or if they ask for something specific, I'll do it. With Chris, I'll take it upon myself to add shit because
'Cause you
I'll
know.
just be like, do you like it or not? Like it's like,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
But
and
I
you
don't.
know, yeah.
If I get a song from anyone and there's not a delay on a specific line, I'm not gonna just put one there.
Yeah, I'm
Because-
I'm glad you said. I find it crazy when people talk about adding like huge reverbs and
Yeah,
delays
they
on
add this
vocals
shit, and
like,
and this is the thing when you work with big producers like Day Trip or this guy Johnny Goldstein. I talk about like if you're thinking like, oh, let me try a delay here. I guarantee you they've already tried a delay there.
yeah,
And there's a reason it's not there. Like that's how I think. Like these producers
Yeah.
are not stupid. They've turned every rock. Like they're in there till 5 a.m. tweaking songs and shit. They've tried a delay on pretty much every
yeah.
little
They've lived
space
with this
you could
track.
think,
They're
and
trying to
they've
make it
lived with
hit.
it.
They're trying to make it hit.
And a lot of times I think of two people, this is a lot very common with the new artists. They want to put a lot of shit. Like I mixed a record for a new artist the other day, and she had ad libs on the first verse, like full on harmony ad libs underneath the lead on like line 2 of
Yeah.
the first verse. And she's like, and I was like, hey, like it's cool, like it's not wrong,
yeah,
but I'm just telling you, like when you're introducing the song, maybe you want to start in a place where like it feels a little emptier. and then it builds. Because if you're bringing ad libs in on bar 1, what's
I
happening on
think
the last
I think there's a lot of like there's that Taylor Swift thing where she sort of doubles random lines in the verse. So you're probably getting
That's a double, which is fine. This is full on like harmonies that we're doing. You know, a harmony that you would put at the end.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
That's like
Beyonce
doing a
trilling
run,
out. Yeah,
Right.
doing a run in the first verse.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I was kind of like, we should mute these and maybe give it some space. And all of a sudden, the song opened up, and you were like paying attention to the lyrics and not immediately going, "Oh shit, there's ad libs."
Yeah, and that's you helping maybe an artist who's coming up because probably she didn't have that confidence to be like, oh no, it's not at the chorus yet. It's not the chorus yet.
Yeah,
I need to make it
everything's gotta be big.
exciting.
I need to make it exciting and do all this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And that's literally like the red flag number 1 that I need to like try to guide them. But there's also a way that you can come off like seeming like you know it all. So you kind of have to be careful with how you say stuff. Because we are right. Like you should not have fucking ad libs in verse 1. I'm not saying it's wrong. Like you do whatever you want.
Yeah, it's art at the end of the day.
But
For
it's-
the context of the song and the growth of the song, we should save those things, right?
Yeah, so
And I was
approach
just
it.
telling her like less is more. And that's kind of where I was telling the story is like people put so much shit in there and they forget that space is almost louder than sound.
it's important.
Like,
Yeah,
having that space there in a
Dynamics, yeah.
drop right before it cuts into the second verse is a lot louder than putting a delay in that space.
Yes.
Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's complete
No,
suck
totally.
of volume
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
way out and you're just dry and then boom, it hits. That's a lot louder to me than a
Yeah.
delay being in there that's just delaying out.
Yeah. You mentioned, sorry, Joss, I was going to say, because you just while we're still on that, because you mentioned Day Trip.
Yeah.
We did Industry Baby, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah. So do you get that thing where you get a track from like certain producers and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be fire. Yeah.
Yes.
Sick. Yeah. Like who comes to mind where you're like,
Really any artist that gives me a song that's good. Like not all songs are bad per se, but like they're all okay. But when you get the one that's like exciting, I'm excited. I'm like, set this up right now.
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
roll a joint. I'm gonna sit down and let's fucking kill this shit. Like I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
really excited to mix it. And then if not, it feels sometimes more just like, all right, I'm gonna mix this. Like I'm gonna get this done. They
Cool.
need it by this time, blah, blah. But there's not the excitement you get from when you mix like a record that you're like, holy shit, this is a good song.
and you've
Yeah.
got the year you kind of know now. Like
Yeah, like
about
I've
how
been
many records.
even before Chris, like the whole engineering game is essentially cutting records, right? And most records are cut with writers. So when you're in the room with writers and you see the process of writing a song, and as you start to work with bigger writers, you start to understand what makes up a really strong song.
yeah.
And for me, it's simplicity, incredible melodies. Like one of the tactics that I learned, and I'm just an engineer, right? But in the songwriting world, when you think you have a hook, you take that hook and you make it the verse melody, and now write a stronger hook. That's
I've
sort of
heard
like
this.
the-
I've heard
You
this.
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, and even now, like if I was in with a writer cutting a record, I would probably have a lot of input in the writing of it. Not like, oh, hear me sing this melody. It's like, okay, you gave me all these melody takes. This feels like a verse. This feels like a pre-hook. This is really dope, but let's make this the bridge.
Yeah.
Like piecing together and feeling the flow of the melodies going into each other. Like that's a huge part of recording engineering. Although in the beginning, what's happening is people are telling you to do those things.
Right. Yeah.
So when I'm coming up and I'm recording, I'm not the one being like, let's try this, let's try that. It's them being like, try this part there. And I move it and I'm like, oh, okay. Try this part here. Oh, that's actually good. And you start to learn.
You're piecing
Okay.
these together.
You piece it together. And then by the end of 10 years goes by, you know how to make a song.
Yeah.
You know what
Yes.
it feels like to say, okay, this verse is too long. We need to cut 4 bars, go right to the hook. You know, or shorten the first hook to be half, get right to the second verse, and then double hook on the second. Like this all happens through feeling. You don't come in a studio and say, okay, today's song is gonna have an 8-bar verse with a 4-bar pre
Yeah,
and
yeah.
an 8-bar hook.
I'm sure
You
some
make-
people do, but yeah.
You make the song, and as you're making it, you can feel it. Literally, the song will tell you when the next part needs to come.
Yeah, it's writing itself.
For me, I just go, next part, please. Like my brain is just like, where's the next part now? And that's when I know that we need to cut it short. You know, like I need that hook to come in.
Yeah.
And it's a feeling thing that you develop over time. And it's all learning in the process. Also working with Chris and working with all these artists, you kind of learn song, what's it called? Like song, how to cook a song up. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
formula.
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
song.
yeah, yeah.
You learn it. And then
Yeah,
you
and
understand.
what works, what doesn't. and the vibe.
And it
like
depends
not
on the tempo,
putting
right?
ad-libs at
You
in the
can't
front
have
verse.
a 12 bar verse if the song is super, super slow. Maybe it's an 8 bar verse.
Yeah.
So like if it's super fast, maybe you're like 8 bars too short. Let me do a 12 bar just because it needs a little bit more. And it's all of this is based off of feeling. It's not like you walk in and there's a rule book of like a pop song is this many bars for this. It's just all feeling.
Yeah.
And you learn the feeling. Like it's crazy to think that you can just learn that feeling. It literally tells you.
Yeah.
Inside, you're like,
the
next part.
intangibles. Yeah.
I wanted to I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, obviously, over the last few years, as a mixer, your career's like skyrockets. The trajectory is crazy. And what has how has your system had to change? Because you seem like one of the busiest engineers on the planet, if not the busiest engineer on the planet.
No, come on. We have Serban and Manny and
I mean,
Jason.
bro, pretty busy.
But I have 2 assistants. And one thing that's really helped, because I have like my studio at my house, as you know, is we have this Parsec thing. It's like a screen share thing for gamers. So it has really low latency. And then, of course, we use audio movers. So it's pretty much like audio movers is basically like an everyday thing because I don't even have them to come to my house anymore. So like my computer's always accessible to both
That's
of
the
them.
client, you mean?
Huh?
The client.
No,
my assistants.
Oh, your
Because I'm
assistants,
telling you about-
they're not even there.
They don't even need to be there anymore.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
tomorrow they do need to come for something because it's something that's a little more complex where they need to be there with like notes and shit. But usually 99% of the time, they do everything from their studio
Wow.
in my studio. And they're just literally controlling my computer and doing everything they need. But I've had to sort of like, I don't set up my own songs anymore. Comparative to like when before I had my assistants, which happened right after Industry Baby, but before First Class, I got Ignacio, who's my assistant. But prior to that, I was setting up my own songs, and it was kind of a bitch because I would set up the songs at night before I went to bed, so that when I woke up, I didn't feel like I had to set up a song and then start
You were
mixing.
fresh to it. Yeah.
Right, so I would set everything up the night before, and then I could wake up and have everything like just start mixing as if it was just like fresh, ready to go. So when I got Ignacio, it became like he would set everything up and then I wouldn't have to do it. But it could happen at any time of day. I wouldn't have to do it the night before and then go to sleep. But he could just set one up right now, and then when I get home, I could just start mixing.
Big up Ignacio, by the way, an amazing mix engineer in his own right.
So then we have Fede too. Ignacio's doing his thing. Then we have Fede too, and Fede's just there to like do extra shit. So like Ignacio's doing mastering and stems and stuff. Fede's setting up Atmos in Logic for me and getting everything ready.
Oh, amazing.
So we have a whole system, and obviously with Atmos, it's a deliverable for pretty much every song that I work on. So it's like stems get made, then Atmos needs to be set up, then Atmos needs to be mixed. Then master needs to come back from mastering and then line up to Atmos. Then we can deliver the Atmos. We have to do cleans and dirties of the stem so that we have a clean and dirty of the Atmos. Like it's a whole process that I can't do on my own.
Because with Atmos, effectively, you're the mastering layer. So you're delivering what a mastering engineer would deliver, or
No. With Atmos, I'm delivering a Wave ADM. But I need the master back because I need to line it up.
They need to work within like 2 clicks of each other.
If I send a pre-master to the mastering engineer and then he cuts off a tail or does a fade, and then I just submit my stem, my Atmos based off of the length of my stems and my pre-masters, it won't match the length of the master.
And it has to be perfect because on Apple Music,
we import the master and we see that he
Yeah.
snipped off a little hair off the end. So we snip that off and then we bounce the ADM to essentially be perfect timing with the master.
But it's one deliverable, or I thought you were saying that because like a mastering engineer, you were delivering the acapella. And
So for
all
Atmos, we deliver clean and dirty.
okay, clean
There's
and
no
dirty.
instrumental acapella or any of that.
Right,
But the
that's
clean
what
and dirty,
misunderstood.
given that they have cleans and dirties for iTunes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we don't deliver any other deliverables. There would be
Right.
no point of delivering an acapella unless they were like, we want to release a song as an acapella, and then there's an acapella Atmos. But if not, no.
Yeah. And we don't want to get stuck on it, but like, if anyone doesn't know, you're doing Atmos entirely in Logic, basically.
Yeah, I'm doing everything in Logic, and I'm listening in spatial in real time.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm hearing
I didn't know
what you hear on iTunes is what I'm hearing in real time while I mix.
Why not watching my content?
Oh,
man?
sorry, bro.
That's
That's
bad.
bad.
Whole life.
Yeah, but
I
it's just like
I do the same thing. I use Logic.
To me, it's common sense. Like, why the fuck would you mix in binaural and make all these decisions when nothing will ever sound like that? The binaural is so much duller and so much different than spatial. So that's
You're hearing it as Apple
that's like
wants you.
mixing on speakers that are super dull and possibly adding a ton of high end because you're like, this shit's dull.
Mm-mm.
And then it gets played on regular speakers and it's unbearably bright. It's like maybe mix on speakers that are a little brighter so that you don't do that. It's the same thing. Like maybe mix on AirPod Maxes so that you're hearing exactly what you need to hear on iTunes, and then I can only bounce it one time, and I don't have to check it anywhere.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Those are the headphones that they're going to be listened to.
Yeah, that's what you use.
Exactly, because 99% of consumption of spatial or Atmos is done on Apple headphones.
Yeah.
I feel a lot better about my process now.
Yeah, like it's like, why would I'm not mixing Atmos so that 1% of people that listen on Amazon Music can enjoy it. I've never even heard anyone say that they heard a spatial or an Atmos song in another place other than iTunes.
Yeah, and we spoke
Tidal has it too, but that's binaural.
Yeah. And you even said like you have come here just for the record and got in an Atmos room and heard your Atmos mix and been like, yeah, okay, cool.
Bro, to the point
Everything
where
was
literally like the CEO of Dolby, Christine, or like she runs like the Dolby stuff of it, and then Aaron, they're like, we play your mixes all the time in studios, and like there's shit all over the room in the back and shit, and there's songs that I've never even heard in the room because I don't hear every song in the room.
Of course, yeah.
Every now and then I'll be in a room and I'll play whatever I worked on or something like that, but I don't hear every single song that I've ever done in the room.
Yeah.
And they'll play stuff like what was the guy that was running before Christine, the tall guy that was running Dolby, that he was at Apple now. What's his name?
Igor, this is one for you.
The tall guy that worked at...
Can you remember at Dolby?
It starts with a K at Dolby, that he was running it. And then he's at Apple now, and now Christine's in it. He was like the main head at Dolby. I fucking forget
We'll put his name above.
Carey.
Oh, it was Carey.
So Carey.
Yeah,
so I'm at a Grammy event. I'm at a Grammy event last year, and I see Carey, and he's like, yo, that Boyfriend mix you did for Usher is so amazing. And I'm like, I've never heard that in the room.
Yeah.
And he loved it. And I was like, well, I guess I'm doing something
dude.
right.
Yeah.
So like now, people don't. I don't know. For me, the room is cool. Like it translates to the room though. I don't know. Part of it is also making it sound like the stereo, because I A/B the stereo against the Atmos, and what I'm looking for is the exact relative levels to be there.
Yeah,
so
and
the
feeling,
snare shouldn't be louder in the Atmos than it is in the stereo. The vocal shouldn't be thinner. It shouldn't be duller. It shouldn't be anything. It should be literally identical in terms of sonics.
It's very easy for that to happen though.
And
you're
I'm
moving
not doing
things around.
anything in the Atmos other than literally panning and turning stuff up and down to match the I don't like add delays. That all should have been done in the mix.
Yeah.
There's no point in adding a bunch of extra stuff.
It's like
if it doesn't match.
They're changing the track.
Yeah, because like think about it. Like you take a song that doesn't have a bunch of delays in it. It's just like it's clear. But then in Atmos, you get this crazy idea. Like I'm gonna add delays and have it going around the head. Now that song is kind of like not the artist's original vision. Unless the artist is like, look, I want to fuck off and do all this shit. Cool.
Yeah.
But it has to be the artist's vision. It can't just be us as engineers being like, I
Wanting
want to put
flex.
delays here and flex and make it spin around the room. When you're changing.
There was a bit of that. I feel like that's going away now, but there was a bit.
I call it the Dolby fantasy. Like people have these fantasies where like the perfect world where like they can do whatever the fuck they want with the song and like, but at the end of the day, like there's a lot of people above you that make decisions that you can't just be like, I'm gonna do my own thing on this, and that goes for the stereo mix too.
Yeah,
like we're following the vision of the artist, and with the Dolby should follow the vision of the stereo, which is the vision of the artist. Like that's just common sense to me. It's just
you
like,
can
it makes
get
sense.
a bit creative with it. Like Baines, we were listening to some of his music
places.
and he did this thing. He had like this 808 triplet at the top where it would like like that, and you would.
But
feel
it was in
move.
the song though originally. That triplet.
Yeah, the triplet
he didn't
was,
add
but the
anything.
triplet didn't move.
That's
and then
fine.
That was like, but it felt different enough to give it.
I'm talking about introducing new elements. A delay would be a new element. Versus if I take an ad lib that's already there and I pan it left and right, that's not adding a new element. That's just moving it within the same space.
Yeah.
But adding an element, like if he had added that do to make it sound, and that wasn't in the song, that would have been like bad for me. I wouldn't have done that, because that changed the song.
There's that thing where they like take old, like and sort of take really old mixes and now they're putting them in Atmos and stuff like that. And sometimes I don't know if it's right or wrong, but sometimes you hear things in the track that you didn't hear anymore.
Yeah, because it's all pulled apart and spread apart.
Yeah. So there's that, which is like, is it good or bad? I don't know. Like, but yeah.
It's really hard because think about how producers and artists have demoitis. Imagine regular humans that know nothing about demoitis having demoitis about songs that they've been listening to their entire lives.
Well, that's happening a lot. Yeah. Go online.
Yeah, no, seriously.
That's happening a lot.
So you're saying that people are basically regular people that aren't in music are noticing that these Atmos mixes from Led Zeppelin or the Beatles don't sound like
they were
the
listening
original.
on vinyl or 8-track or whatever, and now it's like there's like a
and they're not gonna like it, even if it's
cool.
cool, even if John Lennon's spinning around your head and you're like, wow, John Lennon's in the room with me.
Yeah.
they're still gonna have a problem with it. Why? Because they don't even know that they have this thing called demoitis, which is been brewing in their body for as long as they've been listening to Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, probably listens to that tune for 30 years.
30 years, you'll never get over how it sounds.
Yeah.
You'll notice anything that's different about the song. And I think those are the ones that are the most important to keep as intact as possible. Those are the ones that people will never forget what those records sound like. Don't change a damn thing. Don't even try to don't even do panning.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even pan in a Led Zeppelin song. I wouldn't even pan unless it was like a crazy part effect where something is cool. I would leave it stagnant. I would move it along the room, but nothing would be moving in the room.
Yeah.
Just because I wouldn't want to take away from that original intent.
Yeah. Speaking of Led Zeppelin, you told me very briefly that you were working on a rock record or a couple of rock records.
There's this girl named Amira who's signed to Atlantic. Amira El Finky or El Finky. I'll have to look it up. It's a hard last name.
Do you want me? We can cut
just
it
quickly
in?
look it up really quick.
Yeah.
So we can cut it in so I don't look crazy.
But I feel like because you had some.
But think like Evanescence meets like death metal. And she's actually
I want to say El Feki.
I cannot pronounce
El
that.
Feki.
Amira El Feki.
Yeah, El Feki, yeah. So she's so fucking fire. The problem that I've realized, and this is me dipping my toes into a whole new world, right? The thing about rock is that the style of mixing for them is like the drums aren't that important, like in terms of like making sure they're very dynamic. Like you get the click from but you don't feel that low end.
It's not that, you
don't feel the low end, right?
In comparison to like
the guitars,
R&B or
everything
hip-hop,
is exactly. Yeah. So the guitars are very mid-rangey, and the vocal is much like this in the cuts because they recorded her on an SM7. So everything is just muddy and rock and mid-rangey, and the vocals are low. You can't really understand the lyrics. That's kind of like the general consensus that I've gotten. Unless you're talking about like Tool and these bands that have like a different style, but like the rock heavy shit, you can't really. It's very muddy and washed. And so she's like, I like this rock shit, but she's like, I want it to be kind of like a little bit pop. Meaning I can understand my lyrics. They cut through the song. The song is wide and big.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm bringing to it.
Well, yeah, that's funny you say that because someone, Trent Reznor works with, oh my God, and now at this point, we're just Googling stuff. But
that's okay. It's part of the process.
It's calm. Oh man, everyone's going to kill me. Huge female pop singer.
We need to go back to when you had the
Taylor
B-cam
Swift, Beyonce,
and you could just Google
Dua Lipa.
stuff.
This is the new chat GPTs. There needs to be a thing there, and I just look at it and go, "Come on!" And it just
read my mind.
Don't Neuralink into the thing.
Halsey or
Halsey.
Yeah.
What about her?
Well, because Trent Reznor is like hero of mine. He did he's 9 Inch Nails and stuff like that.
Right.
And now he's got the most Oscars and Grammys for like film soundtracks and stuff like that.
Yes.
And very similar because she's doing very upfront pop vocal, but then there's this crazy industrial thing underneath. So I feel like that. Yeah, there's a few people in the same place where I think it's now like this next generation. Everyone listens to everything. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it's not like,
definitely.
right, I just listen
this
to...
This is how all
I'm
rock
a mod,
sounds.
I'm a punk.
She's listening to pop stuff and going, wow, I love how clear and I can hear the lyrics. And in my stuff, it's all just kind of like with a lot. Now there's these crazy, like, insane, like, breakdowns in the song.
Yeah.
That are like, those like death metal ones.
Yeah.
And that's been like the funnest shit to mix because this is why for me rock has become like not in any disrespectful way, but sort of easy for me is that in other stuff that I mix, it's all about how loud can I make the song, but at the same time, how big can I make the kick or the 808 sound?
Right.
And so that's a big compromise with loudness, right?
That's the challenge, yeah.
With rock, you're not trying to make the kick be boom, boom, boom. It needs to be there. But you're not worried about, like, I don't even worry about where my kick's gonna sit. Versus with hip hop, I'm like, how can I get this to be really loud but still bang? With rock, you don't need to do that. It's almost like I was trained to do something that's a lot harder than the rock shit. Because I'm printing these rock mixes at -4, -4.5.
Yeah.
That's
so
loud.
getting loud and dynamic
but the kick is, you feel it, but you don't, it's not like, it's not a hip hop kick.
And how crazy are they getting with, because a lot of rock music is still sort of based, even though it's not, it's all overdubbed like crazy and everything's fixed and all death metal now is like fake drums or MIDI drums.
Which I like because
Yeah.
it's so good to mix that shit.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Zach
It's all
Serfini is
gridded.
the guy producing everything.
Right,
He's like
right.
the biggest rock producer right now.
But is it? But well, a lot of it, the dynamics is still based on the idea of a band on a stage. You know
but
what I mean?
I would never be able to mix
Guitarist,
that.
drummer.
In my life, I couldn't. If you gave me a raw drum recording,
Yeah.
I would never be able to make it sound like what I'm doing with this shit.
Right.
Everything has to be replaced. The snares have to be replaced. The kick has to be replaced. If not replaced, then stacked with
Real.
Sure.
a kick. Yeah. And then
yeah.
also making sure that
Samples.
the phase doesn't phase out that kick if you're stacking it on a kick that's a live kick.
Okay.
At that point, if you're gonna put a program kick, you almost need to like sound replace it so that it goes right where all
Yeah,
the kicks
yeah,
are
yeah.
exactly on the live recording. At this point, none of these people even record live drums anymore. If they want something that sounds live, they have like I'm getting like literally tracks where it's just a group of overheads with the hats and shit as like 5 or 6 different tracks that I group as just overheads, and that's your live feeling right there. Like I feel like they just have this shit ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they have not loops, but like pieces of music that are already pre-recorded drums that they can just
At the
tempo
right
change
tempo, yeah.
to whatever song they need.
Yeah.
Do
Like-
you
There's
find
packs
yourself...
that everyone uses.
Yeah, and they sound great. I mean,
Yeah.
like the shit sounds consistent and really good, and I prefer it this way. I would rather do that than be like, shit, this drum set wasn't recorded that well, or the drummer wasn't that good, and now we are suffering with the song.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I'd rather.
fair.
Do you find yourself like with this like, you know, new genre that you're diving into, trying to find ways of making it compete across the like multi-genre platform? So like, you know, if you're, for instance, you know, the song makes it into like a popular playlist, for instance, and there might be an R&B song in there or whatever, and like,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want it to sonically like feel totally flat or different because it doesn't have all of that low end maybe. Is there like a thought process into trying to bring it up to that modern standard, even though it's
Well, you never
using old
know what
techniques?
song you're gonna end up next to on a playlist. But I
Yeah.
know with albums, people will be like, especially with Ohad, he'll be like, maybe this song here is slightly lower than this song, but they're nowhere near each other, right? The focus becomes when one song plays into another one. That's where the
Okay.
focus is like, okay, this sounds like it was super high energy, and the next one like is lower. We have to match those better. That's the one thing that I think we come across with mastering and getting things to feel the same is when one song crosses into another song.
Yeah.
But you can't know if you're gonna be next to a song that maybe wasn't even mixed with a track out and there's no low end in it and it's extremely loud and
Yeah.
your song sounds like low now and
I
not.
feel like with rock that would be more straightforward because a lot of rock albums are thought of as albums, you know, start, middle, end, as opposed to like
Well,
some of the projects you've done where it's like, okay, this is going to be the single, or
Yes,
no,
it's
this-
more
yeah, it's more,
sporadic.
and
it's more
like,
conceptual.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then you
yeah.
throw Chris in where he has an R&B record and then a dance record and an Afro record and
That's
then
what I mean.
a
Yeah,
hip hop record. I've already gone into it knowing that not all these songs will sound the same. Like his voice will not sound the same on all the songs, especially like the one that I'm talking about. His vocals are really thinned out with a lot of reverb. That's just that song.
Yeah,
A different song, his vocals full and there's less reverb and like you can't do anything. And I started to think about it, be like every song is its own world.
yeah, yeah.
Unless I'm doing like Offset's album where like all the stuff is living in the same world, where like it's 808 and it's snap
and it's
or
Atlanta
snare
yeah,
and then one
it's-
sample and then
yeah.
his voice in a similar, you know, vein of loudness or like in a similar
Yeah,
key.
yeah.
It's all very similar, but with Chris, there's no
And the
telling.
ad libs and
Yeah, the ad libs are all pretty much the same. You could almost start to just bring in your processing from the other songs into the.
yeah,
Yeah,
copy
yeah.
and paste.
Yeah, you could just kind of copy and paste the settings.
But I heard, sorry, I was just on that Offset. If we can talk about it, like
Yeah.
I heard, but there was issues with like stuff recorded in different places.
Oh
or-
yeah.
okay.
Specifically with that, there was a lot, but
Yeah.
it was also just trying to match everything.
Okay.
Certain albums are a freaking nightmare, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
Different
I'm just
mics,
asking,
different
like, yeah,
spaces.
why did you record this in 5 different places?
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you're gonna do that, just record it all in one place. Like by the time
Yeah.
you get to the 5th place, like just start over and record it all there and finish it there.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Because
The-
if not,
the-
you're gonna come at me and be like, "This sounds different than that." And I'm like, "What do you want me to do?" It's
Yeah,
like
you went
totally
from
different.
$10,000 mic to whatever,
Yeah.
to your phone to
Yeah.
yeah.
The reason why I just wanted to bring it back to the rock stuff a little bit because I wanted to see if your input into the mixing, like obviously you said she wants to be a bit more pop and stuff, and that's maybe a reason why she's hired you for the project.
which I would have done
But-
anyways, because that's just my style. is
'cause
to
it's
be
a
like, I
natural
don't want to be
thing.
mid-rangey.
But there was like so the Arctic Monkeys when they released AM.
I love the Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah,
I grew up on
that
them.
came out at a time where obviously dance music was at its peak.
Yes.
And they were expecting this to be in the charts and sitting next to these records. So it was a conscious decision for the producers and the mix engineers. They added like the sine wave underneath the kick, which is like a fairly
so
new
you could
thing
feel it
to feel
more.
the body.
Yes,
yeah,
because
like
the
it's-
kicks were like alive, like click, click type
they
of
are.
kick.
So they're a rock band,
They're a
right?
rock band, yeah.
So they're playing it and they're adding these triggers to almost give the feeling of like an 808 underneath it. You know,
right,
booming, which
just to
is-
help.
Yeah. So like, is there like a thought process in that where you're like kind of leaning into techniques from, you know, R&B and hip hop in this rock style?
Yeah, definitely trying to bring out the low end more than what they normally do in rock. Like when I press back and forth between my mix and the demo, the initial thing you hear is you feel the punch of the kick a little bit more.
Yeah.
And like I say a little bit, but like in our eyes, it's a lot, like compared to the demo, but like it's a little bit to like most people. But techniques of like bringing things forward, like the kick and the snare. The snare also in rock sometimes is so squashed you can't even. There's no snap to it. So like that type of stuff, not as much compression on the snare as they normally do. Little things like that, and then the clarity on the vocals is the biggest thing. Shaving away the low end is how I get it to be clear, because when you try to add too much top, you bring the S's out too much.
Well, and those mics are very, very like.
So for me, it was like if I want something to be brighter, I need to get rid of low end. That just became like the thing with it. Is like how much can I get rid of, and then but not too thin, where then it's just brightness.
Yeah. And how do you? I mean, I'm fascinated because with guitars, when you sort of do rock guitars, which is a bit more my lane, you will do like you'll do stuff like you play the same riff super fuzzed, then you play it super clean, and then you play it different style, and then you stack them and you pan them. And then you throw the reverb and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people listen and they think they're hearing one guitar. You're
yeah,
not,
but it's multiple. Yeah.
I
I treat it like if they send me that, I put all of those tracks going to a bus and I pretend like that's one track.
Guitar bus. Yeah.
Now, let's say there's like a weird like pew in there, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of hurting the ears, but I don't want to do it on the EQ. That's going to affect all 5 of these tracks. On that one track, I'll EQ that little thing out. But for 99% of the time, I treat it as if it's one track, and I do that a lot. Like if I get a stack of 20 horns, I'm not going to sit there and EQ and compress each horn, because every time I add something and take a frequency out and change something, I'm disrupting the blend. Right? If I start to take a little bit of low end here and I start to add a little bit of high end there, all of a sudden the blend of the horns changes.
It's going to sound different.
I would rather EQ them all as a whole and take a little bit of low end out and that and just like leave it like that. Because once you start to take away from one and not the other and leave in the other, you kind of change the blend of it for me.
That's it. It sounds like a different guitar.
So
it's like
it's
you changed
actually,
the
I'm
song.
happy. When I get groups of stuff, I'm like, perfect. I'll treat this as one group.
Perfect.
And everyone's happy because they're like, the blend didn't change. And that's probably one of the hardest things to do is a blend. When I get 3 snares on top of each other, that's one snare. It goes out of bus, and that's one snare. I don't mess with any blends.
And then it's not maybe the case anymore, but like the cliche is like rock is like narrower, you know.
It is. It's mine. My mixes are a lot wider.
I was going to
than the
say,
demos that I'm getting.
are you playing with that width?
I think because when I get the sessions, like the guitars are panned fully left and right. So I think it's not that they're not panning as much as I do. I think that going through my system and getting the separation, a lot of these producers and like I'm not afraid to say anything bad about LA or UAD because they've never once spoken to me, reached out for anything. So for me, it's free game. But UAD has some of the worst conversion ever. And number 2, people are producing these crazy rock songs and recording all this stuff through the UAD and printing their mixes and doing all this stuff through UAD. And the shit sounds really narrow and not good. And then all I do is run those stems through my summing mixer and then back out into my links.
This is the look of a man panicking, figuring out how do I. No, I'm kidding.
But no, like
what's your summing
like
mixer?
literally, that's the orbit. But I
Okay.
think just the summing and capturing the audio with high-end converters and just that alone is widening the
Boost
whole
it
mix
up,
sounds
yeah.
so much wider.
I think
just through the
Baines uses it a
separation.
little bit as well.
And
right?
these guys that are producing these records, these rock records, no matter how big they are, most of them have a UAD Apollo, and that's how they're cutting the guitars through there.
Yeah.
They're programming
Oh,
all
everything.
the drums inside. My little brother, who produces a rock producer and does a bunch of other shit, he uses a UAD. You know, and
Yeah,
I was
man.
like, buy like a Hilo 2-channel, something that you just have really great converters on it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you're never gonna get that sound with if you're using that interface, just because it's like it's more consumer level, and then you're having to compete with my mixes and Baines's mixes and John's mixes, and we're all using high definition
and obviously
converters.
like back in the day, in the early noughties, late 90s, it was all going through like SSL and
Exactly, that's
and stuff like
as
that.
great
So,
as
and
you
they're
can
trying
get.
to emulate those
The
sounds.
I mean, that's what my
Yeah.
summing mixer is essentially. Is like an emulation of running it through separation on a Neve console, right? That's what the
Yeah,
Orbit
yeah.
is. So if that's what is helping me, imagine actually running it through a console.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and Jess
It's a
Jackson
different
does
game.
that. He literally just runs. He'll get his session from the artist. He runs all the stems through, prints everything, so it's committed on the SSL, and then he starts the mix. It's already
Yeah.
been run through the SSL. He's made his adjustments and EQs,
Create the space,
printed
got
it,
the
and then
vibe.
now he can mix that stuff that's run through the console.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so like when you're completely in the box, there's a level of width that I personally feel like I lose.
Yeah.
And when you're mixing a record, like if you're just the producer and you're making the beat and you're not mixing the record, it doesn't matter, right? Like you're just making the beat. And I kind of prefer maybe like a dirty keyboard to go through a UAD because it's actually going to kill some of that top endy, make it a little more dirty, which is great for production. The problem is when it comes into the overall sonic and fidelity of the entire song. Like I can have a sound that sounds dirty, right? Like a dirty 808, but the rest of the elements sound polished and clean. So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
have the contrast, and so recording through it is not the problem with instruments. I actually prefer it because it gives it like a texture. But
Yeah.
I don't want that texture on my vocals.
Yeah, and I have to say, the type of stuff you're talking about, that genre, I know a lot of guys play like clean guitar into an Apollo and just,
Try
no
and
DI,
use a
nothing. And then
VST.
Guitar Rig 6 and,
Right.
and you can make nowadays.
Which is fine.
And make
but when,
amazing
when you have
sounding shit.
fidelity issues with the
Yeah.
vocal, that's
It's
the
actually
biggest thing.
hard when you then go like, right, let's do it for real, and you got good guitar
Yeah,
out
you
there,
gotta
like,
figure out.
trying to figure out how to mic it, and
Yeah, exactly.
So,
No. It's a lot easier to do that. To
Yeah.
just go right in.
I'm a bit conscious about taking up too much
Oh
more
man,
of your time.
yeah, we're
What
flying
time is
through.
20 past 5.
So we're
So-
about 1
Okay.
hour. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
I
we're
want
an
to
hour.
get a quick fire round with you.
Okay.
So just first thing that comes to your head. Yeah, it's a quick fire for me as well because I'm
What,
just
is
going
it
off a
like
dome.
plugging? You said you're stoned?
No, I'm going off a
I
dome.
was like, God damn, you beat me to it. All right. All right.
Nah, so yeah,
Okay,
first thing
so-
that comes to your head, it can be a brand or even like a technique, whatever it
A
is.
plug in something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So speakers.
It's like
PMC.
Yeah, sweet. Let's go. Headphones.
Headphones, Apple, Maxes. I
Yeah.
do even my stereo stuff on the Maxes. I love it. They sound
Yeah,
so good.
I do a lot of my
They
reference.
sound
on it.
so
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
They're like the best headphones.
I brought them here and I'm
But
mixing.
think about this.
so-
I always tell people all the time, like, why would you spend $4,000 on headphones that no one's even heard what they sound like? And then you're trying to make that maybe sound good on Apples, but everyone else is
Just
gonna
use
hear it.
Apple.
Just use fucking Apple.
Yeah, 100%.
but
But $4,000 spent well on.
but this is the thing I was going to say to you, because like I mean you've been, I think you had PMCs in New York back in the day.
Yeah.
You got the 6.2s. You don't reference back down to like NS10s and then big
No,
far.
I listen on the headphones and in my car.
Okay,
Because
so
that's
you
where
do
people
car.
listen.
Yeah,
do
I,
car.
I want to
people
go
don't
direct
even
to the
have
source.
NSNs.
I
Okay.
see a lot of people have this fantasy of just jacking off on everything. Like, I want $4,000 this, and I'm gonna go in here on my
No,
NS10s.
I mean the opposite.
Go right to the damn source.
I mean
where
like
people
having
listen.
some fucking weird, like
The
the
Sonos.
Avaton, the Cube,
Sonos
mixed
or the
Cube.
I have the
Amazon
Sonos all
cars.
over my house, so I have them in every
Okay.
room. And if I'm doubting something, I'll play it there and be like, "How does this feel?"
Yeah,
But like, I want to go straight to the
Consumer
consumer.
level.
You listening to a mix that I did is not as important as the consumer loving a song about an artist that I like. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah,
more
yeah.
important for the listener.
Sure.
For me.
Yeah. Okay,
Next.
back to the quick fire. So vocals.
Vocals. Pro Q4.
Pro Q4.
Yeah,
Okay,
why
sweet.
not?
Yeah, you liking it?
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice.
Drums.
Drums. Saturation.
Okay. What kind of saturated? What's your go-to?
I'll probably do some Spectre on it a little bit,
I like
especially if it
Spectre.
needs it. A little bit
Yeah.
of Spectre, something. It's really great to just add a little bit of body and low end
Yeah,
into
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Studio snack.
Studio snack. Okay, I've been on a black coffee vibe. I drink like 4 black coffees a day. And I got this machine. Basically, it was like everything was Starbucks, and I was like, dude, that shit's not good for me. And then I got a machine, and then I got an espresso machine, and I was making lattes, and I was like, dude, I'm going through too much oat milk. So then I was like, water, ice, and 1 shot of espresso. I have like 4 of those a day.
I was gonna say, Patrizio, you need to have the
I know.
espresso.
So I
mean, what's
literally walk
going
around.
on?
I have like cup and I just drink coffee. That's my new studio snack.
That's your snack.
That's the
Okay.
And I'm fasting like a little bit for the Grammys because I bought my clothes and shit, and I don't want to like be like a fat fuck at the fucking Grammys, like getting photographed after, you know.
You
But
gotta-
after the
yeah.
Grammys, I'm going to eat.
Okay.
Because I've been like starving.
Yeah. It's
Oh yeah,
also-
coffee doesn't break your fast. So I can
Yeah.
drink this in the morning and be happy and
Yeah,
not break my
yeah,
fast.
yeah.
Give it.
Evening or day sessions?
Day sessions. I like 6:30 in the morning is my perfect time to wake up and mix.
Oh wow.
Really,
love
if
that.
I can get up earlier. I've gotten up at like 4:30 and it's so good because by 10:30 I'm done with 2 songs and I'm chilling.
And
everyone
no
else is
one's
like,
trying
"Ah."
to get in contact with you at 6:30.
Exactly. And it's useless time.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no events, there's no parties, there's no dinners, there's nothing to do at that time. So why not
Mhm.
work?
Yeah, mix.
You
Yeah.
know, and then go for lunch.
yeah.
Sick.
I like that.
Yeah. And then and then your ears recharge and you're kind of.
Yeah, and chill. 11
Yeah.
a.m. go to the gym. You've
Yeah.
already worked more
Yeah.
than everyone else.
Yeah. This guy goes play golf at like 11 a.m. and I'm like, fucking hell, it's right for some, innit?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm-
Yeah,
Oh,
but I
damn.
get up early and I work at. I'm
No,
in
no,
the
you go to
studio at
golf
like
at
6.
11.
That's what I mean. I wish I could just like, right now I'm gonna work. Now I'm gonna
Yeah,
work.
but
you
my
know what I
studio
mean?
is at the back of my garden, and then
Yeah.
I go and play golf.
Yeah, my
Fair.
studio's just right in the house. I love it.
And final question, 808.
808. You know what I really like is the lo-fi from Avid. Is it from Avid? That's like the regular lo-fi plugin. they have.
Okay, yeah.
it is. Yeah.
I put the distortion on 0.1.
You're like
It's
the
my favorite.
4th person to say that this weekend, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, fine. So I'll give you another
No,
one. then.
no, it's
Okay,
great.
I have one. I've been putting Soothe. You know when an 808 has those notes that just the frequencies are just like really resonant? Just
Mhm.
throw Soothe on the bass.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Swear to God, it goes away.
Have you tried using the new Pro Q4 feature?
Not on the bass, but I've used the Pro Q feature on vocals.
Okay.
But on the
cool.
bass, once I figured out that Soothe worked, like there's always that one note that it goes to that's like really like,
Yeah.
and you put the Soothe on there and it tracks it,
Just locks it in.
locks it
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
It feels like it smoothens out the 808. You can turn it up now.
Yeah.
Because that's the issue is you don't want to turn it up because you're like, that note is going to get,
Yeah.
you know, and you could EQ it out, but I feel like with the compression, it almost helps from the Soothe instead of just EQing it out. Because then you lose it.
Maybe that's what I needed to do on that mix that I was doing before you
So
came.
you soothe it
Yeah,
up, and you
I'm gonna
gotta
try that.
obviously mess with the sharpness, and you have to mess with
Yeah.
how much you're
The
doing.
sharpness, if you turn it up, it changes the
Well, I
whole
use it on
sound.
hats. So on
Yeah.
hats, I'll do a lot more sharper.
Yeah.
Basically on stuff that I don't want it to just like empty out that whole section, I'll do on super sharp so that it just gets those points and leaves other parts of it.
Yeah.
Doesn't get everything, you know, because it can do that. If
And
it's-
then I guess to wrap it up,
wrap it up. What do we got?
a word of advice for everyone out there that's trying to become the best mix
There's
engineer in the world.
always words of advice.
Yeah.
Well,
They
one
wanna
thing
hear it
that
from
I've
you, bro.
noticed, you know what? Here's some advice. What I've been noticing, and part of this is with social media, is like being an engineer. And I get that over the past few years, like being an engineer became like sort of cool. Like when I first started, it wasn't cool.
Bro,
Like,
you at
in
NAM, you're a
09
superstar.
I know. But what I'm saying is like back in the day when I first started recording, like the worst job in the studio, if it wasn't the intern, was the recording engineer.
Yeah.
Like the intern was like emptying the trash and cleaning the bathroom, but the recording engineer was getting cussed the fuck out and threatened in the
Yeah.
studio. So it's like, you know, and then with social media, it brought a lot of light to engineers, and then you have the product of that, which is people like me and Baines and John Castelli and all these mixers and David Young Kim and everyone, and you have this product of like people that essentially have garnered attention for working with these big artists. And so what I've noticed among the young engineers is these kids are acting like superstars too soon and not like trying to become really good at recording. I think that they're buying too much into like followers and
Yeah.
making people like telling people like they know about all this shit and they're on there like, oh, parallel compression, this and that and all that stuff instead of just like trying to be the best at this. You know, like I'll notice like a lot of engineers like they're trying to be like the artist too much because they're getting attention, they're getting on social media. So I would say like keep your head down and just like work until like you shouldn't be calling yourself the GOAT. Like you shouldn't be
let's not be-
saying like
yeah.
I'm that guy. Like those are not words that one should say about themselves.
And you got to be ready to take those opportunities because, like, I mean, someone like Baines, you know, if people don't know, he was like famously like Top of the Class and Full Sail.
Yeah. And
He's
I
like
was too at LA recording school. I had my little tassels and shit.
And he would like all those weird Pro Tools, like he like completed every Pro Tools course. He can like professionally teach.
That's
Pro
a hard
Tools.
thing to do.
Yes,
Like,
I didn't
there's
do
a
any
lot
of
to
that shit.
Yeah.
No.
But what I mean, but you guys, when the opportunity came, you were ready.
Yes.
It wasn't like, oh, you've got 100,000 followers, come mix the record.
Yeah,
you know
100%.
what I mean? 'Cause you'd be
Yeah,
like,
no.
"Oh, shit,"
It's almost
you know?
become like more of like it's like a cool. I get it. It's cool to like be an engineer now because you get to do all this shit. But I feel like sometimes that gets in the way of them like learning. Like these guys would rather, be on Instagram doing this shit instead of learning like, okay, what could be a better process for me? Like these guys are the ones that like don't even have templates for recording. They open one track and they're like, okay, now I have to duplicate this track multiple times. And they're too worried about like shining on Instagram. And I think that needs to come on its own. Like when you do enough here, that shine will come on its own. People will notice you on your own, but you shouldn't be out there attention seeking instead of learning with this shit.
You'll mix a huge record and then, you mix that record.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the shine.
Exactly. Or you work with this artist in a song.
Well, that is exactly how it happens.
But I don't know. I've been noticing this because I'm online and like these guys, they're very into making videos on like the YouTube and all that shit. And it's like, they become sort of famous in a way because they might have, 100,000 followers, like you were saying, but they don't have any real credits like that because they spent most of their time just like doing, pretending to know shit. So I think that like, I think people just need to buck down and like just do the work. Try to get with big artists, try to do basically the path that
I
we
think
took.
that's a fair point to make as well, because obviously those guys, no shade, but like they're the ones that are obviously have the eyes on them. So maybe the people that are coming up to it are getting a slightly skewed outlook on what it actually means to work and become an engineer.
Yeah, it's
perfect
understandable.
Perfect example is like I'll get a track that the vocals are recorded super, super low. Like super low, like not. I like healthy waveform in my stuff.
You
right?
put it on your IG story, I remember, and it was
Yeah, it was so small. And that same guy is the one like flexing that he bought a Louis backpack and he's in the studio with, this artist and that artist, and I'm like, bro, you sent me the vocals so fucking low. Like, were you even paying
before you
attention
turned
to
up,
the
I had
preamp?
the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, if you're sending me shit like that and you're like this guy on social media, like you need to figure out like. I want to see the session come in organized.
Game structure.
Like if I ask you for the session, like if I ask an artist for the session, like get it from my engineer. As the engineer, he should be like, let me hit the producer, let me get the stems for you, let me arrange it for you. That's what I want the recording engineer to be doing because that's showing me like this guy's going somewhere.
Yeah,
and taking the extra step to do that is
they should be doing that.
But they
that's
don't.
Part of it.
They send me the session and then the artist has to give me the producer's contact. He sends it to me, and then Ignacio arranges it.
Yeah.
Although it's the producer's job to arrange these songs because he's the producer, and that's a whole nother argument that I have with people is like, bro, you're the fucking producer. But at the very minimum, if that guy's not gonna do it, the recording engineer that's the perfect light for someone to come in and be like, let me handle this for you. Let me demonstrate to you that I can do this shit so that then maybe someone says, hey, do you know any recording engineers? And I'd be like, you know what? This guy that I worked with, this guy's good. Let me actually connect you with him. You never know where that's going to come from.
That's great.
So that's why it's important to do.
People are looking and people notice
people
when
are
you
looking
do well.
If someone sends me some shit good, I'm like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
I like this. Even with producers, when I get stuff and the producer like lines everything up, sets everything up for me, I'm like, this guy's good.
Yeah.
And then I talk highly of them like I do with Johnny Goldstein or with Day Trip. Yes. Like when I get a song from Day Trip, it's arranged, everything's done, delays, everything is there.
Yeah.
You know,
just doing the job properly.
And I noticed
putting
those
the effort in.
because they affect me, right? If it's from the wrong arrangement, I have to take time, or Ignacio has to take time to rearrange the song. Those things, I notice those things. So like as a recording engineer, please go the extra mile. I know you're not being paid for it, but one day you soon will be. There's a saying that says right now you're not being paid for the extra shit, but one day you'll be paid more for doing less. Like right now you're doing more than being paid for. But later on in life, you'll be paid for more than what you do.
100%.
Man, I hope so.
And that's the saying.
Teezio.
Got a second kid on the way. I need to get some of this
Come
money.
on, man. I'm keeping my kid count at 0 so I can spend the money on myself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it,
man. You guys at home, you've been watching the Unsung podcast by Audio Movers. Obviously, we don't need to explain who Teezio is, but all of his stuff will be linked below. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, follow, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
And thank you just for the record
and
Sontronics. All of that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Mate,
cheers, guys.
Appreciate you. Yes, sir. I'm glad we made it happen. Shit.
Nah,
We got it though.
We got it.
We got it.
Yeah.